and welcome again to the Scaling Up Business Podcast. This special episode, both on video and audio. Hopefully you'll get as much from it in both contexts, but the video's a little special on this one. I'm joined now by Dan Chan. Dan is an entrepreneur, but he's also a magician, and his business is in entertainment for corporate events, and that's been really challenged lately, hasn't it, Dan?
Absolutely.
So now you're doing your work online like all of us in so many ways, or many of us, most of us. So let's talk about how that is, and why don't you give us a sense of that?
Yeah. Before this whole pandemic occurred, I was doing about 250 shows a year. Started off at paypal.com as customer service and quickly moved to finance. That was early 2001. And then since then, I've been doing magic full time. So I've done about 5,000 plus shows. Recently, CNBC featured me, and the hustle.co featured me in an article you've probably seen where it went into 2 million inboxes.
Wow. Yes. And I think, and one of those things is where we came across you and we're like, oh, we should have that guy on and talk to our group of business leaders who are working to scale and grow.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of virtual meetings as well. So I thought that doing some magic online via virtual meeting would be quite interesting.
Right. Yeah. We are all in these, and they can get boring as hell. So they'll blow our minds. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's start with this.
Okay.
I'm going to start with one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah.
Our thoughts determine our actions determine our habits, and our habits determine our destinies. So it's important to keep focused on our thought process and what's happening. So Bill, I would like for you to name a person, place, or thing. Any person, place, or thing that brings to you a positive thought.
Hawaii.
How many times have you been to Hawaii?
Countless. Many. Yeah.
Okay. You notice, and you'll attest to this because I think we're in speaker view, but my hands have not moved anywhere away, correct?
Right.
And you notice that there's a card here. It's not to influence you to go to my website, danchanmagic.com.
No.
Or Instagram, although you probably will anyways, but I do have something right here written on the back of the card that's
what?
The words Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
So that is one of my signature effects that I've done. Let's do two more for you real quick.
Yeah.
I have a deck of cards. It's shuffled, yes.
Yeah. Well,
moment.
Right.
Although magicians do use stacked decks, I promise you it's not stacked in any ways.
Yeah.
Bill.
Yes.
I'm going to fan through the cards. You look at one card, okay? Any card you see there, you can. Do you have one yet?
Okay. Yeah.
You have one, yes?
Yeah.
You saw one there. I'm going to put one card in my pocket.
Okay.
Back so you can actually see that nothing happens outside the frame. So I've committed myself already, Bill.
Yeah.
For the first time, name your card.
8 of spades.
8 of spades. That's kind of funny. I don't see an 8 of spades here. We can go through this entire deck and see if there's an 8 of spades. No. Well, let's go through here. You let me know if you see an 8 of spades. Pretty bright there. That's an 8 of clubs, not the 8 of spades.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that you said the only card that you didn't see. The 8 of...
Awesome.
Okay, I think we have time for one more, then we'll talk a little bit of business. But we're going to influence you to say a number. Say any number between 1 and 100.
Okay.
Just yell it out loud.
99.
99. You could have said any number. You can, in fact, change your mind if you'd like. Yes?
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Inside my notes application is something. A list of beverages. And on that list of beverages, you can see on the bottom, can you read out loud what that says?
Kick Energy.
Oh, on the bottom, 99.
I don't see the angle. No, 99 is RC cream soda.
I think it says IBC.
Oh, yeah, maybe. The angle.
Okay.
Yeah.
IBC cream soda, and right here in this bag is a bottle of IBC cream soda.
Cream soda. Oh, beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. So we have this thing hanging behind me in full view this entire time. Yes, Bill?
Yes.
I've got something for you. A nice surprise to end off our virtual kickoff and our meeting. I've got a sealed envelope. Inside the envelope is something for you, Bill.
Yeah, my name on it, right? That's amazing. How'd you know my name?
I did some research. But the hard part was knowing exactly what you'd say. On Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, Bill will choose the 8 of spades. He'll think fondly of Hawaii. He will choose the number 99, and I would love to share an IBC cream soda with you.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah. Good job.
Yeah.
Well done. So you have done this walk around magic. You've done performance magic. You've done live shows, corporate events. And now you're doing this kind of thing, just like we saw online. How did you even figure out to do that? How has that been going?
Yeah, the first week was really depressing. I started binge watching Netflix, but I just started thinking, I've invested 20 plus years of my life learning this skill set.
Yeah. And
I just said, I've got to do something with it, because I started thinking maybe I should get a regular day job or do something else. It ended up, some of my existing clients asked me, are you willing to do something virtually? At that time, I was charging $500 to $1,500 for an event, for most off-season events. So I said to my clients, I'm not really sure I can do this. Let me just try doing something. And that put some pressure on me. Yeah. And at first, it was just in the beginning, charge what you feel you're worth, but to keep your clients, you have to scale up again. And you have to figure out, again, what are the price points, what's going to work, what's not. Because this medium has a lot of disadvantages. However, it also has a lot of advantages. Things that I stopped putting in my show because of technical difficulties, I actually ended up putting in the show, which made my show a lot stronger. So
you started to experiment, you started to build things, and you found things you could do that you weren't able to do before. And how's it been going? What kind of reception have you gotten? How did you get attention for it?
I started pitching reporters on LinkedIn, and that has been very successful because of this free sample or lead magnet. I just said, would you like to jump on a call and do like a 5 or 10 minute demo? Yeah. And that worked really well. I started doing things that I haven't done in ages, like producing a dove. I couldn't do things like pickpocketing. I used to actually pick pockets from people, steal their watches and wallets. And in this age of social distancing, you can't get close to people. So I had to retire that.
You're right. Yeah, even before the quarantine, we were beginning to distance. I noticed the last few meetings in the 3 weeks before the quarantine, there was an increasing amount, like no hugging, no shaking hands, fist bumps, elbow bumps were becoming more and more common. Of course, we would get to the point where we were going to stand apart. But in the beginning, it was like, okay, I'm not going to shake, but I will stay distant. Then soon enough, we are entirely distant or wearing masks.
Yeah. So it's just been a journey to kind of pivot. Since then, we've performed for Google again. We've performed for Twitch, a university, a couple of birthday parties. I haven't been doing birthday parties for quite a while. I do these birthday parties for billionaires. Like some of these kids parties where they spend $250,000 on the kids' birthday parties, believe it or not. So those are
my kids didn't get that party.
my kids, and I didn't get those parties. But when I show up to these events, I'm like, there are these corporate events that I do that they have 400-pound Bengal tigers at their parties. So it's these are pretty
crazy. And is that part of the what's the tiger show?
Siegfried and Roy, right?
No. I didn't mean the magic show. I meant the Netflix Tiger King.
This was well before Tiger King, I believe. We did these epic parties where they'd have ice sculptures for $10,000 and $20,000 ice sculptures, but those are the 1%ers. Those are like the ones that are just crazy parties. So it's been a lot of fun going from PayPal and doing what I love versus just doing the normal corporate things. But it comes full circle for me.
I noticed that we're all doing this. So people have where they have non-essential or people who could work from home, they're working from home. They're living on Zoom and Google meetings and they're doing things on the phone. And so they've moved their business that way. And I think the same desire to bring creativity and engagement is showing up there as well. So people are like, well, how could I move this conference online? How could I create an event online? I'm an event later this week where we're doing a wine tasting. There was an event last week that was a cocktail class. I have one coming up that's a cooking class. So they'll send us the wines or the drink mixers or the food items, and we'll cook those things. They'll send out like little kits beforehand that you get in a box, and then you do it live together. We've been having meditation, DJs, all kinds of things going on. I'm doing one tomorrow morning where there's some guided meditation in the middle of the thing. We're doing Q&A. We're using all the different features out there. And it feels like this is one more and challenging, fun way to do stuff, not just music and that kind of thing, but also like live performance.
Yeah, it's a great way. And I tell people this is the one time in the year when you're doing these events, you're not paying for food or wine if you decide not to. And you can bring in party crashers. So we've had some events with people saying, hey, we have low counts. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if you invite more people because the cost is still the same. For now, I'm not charging for more people. My Zoom account is up to 100 and I might consider upgrading to 500. So when people are saying, hey, we want to do an event, I'm saying this is the best time to do it. For those people who are price sensitive or talking about objections, whenever you're coming into a sales call, people always have objections. So that's one angle to have.
Right.
Another angle that I've been approaching is we did a birthday party and I was saying this would be the perfect time for you to invite family members or friends that you haven't seen in ages that are in different time zones or across the world. It's, when grandparents are watching their kids do something, it's intriguing. It's kind of like normally when they pick up the phone, it's like 5 or 10 minutes and then they literally hang up. Here you're watching your grandkids laugh and experience something for a long time. And I think that's kind of the new normal now.
Yeah. Well, we've had birthday parties, family holiday meals by Zoom now. And you just raised an interesting idea. You could now have celebrity impersonators Zoom bomb your meetings.
Yeah, I've heard of a magician actually Zoom bombing a conference meeting to kind of bring things out. But to me, that doesn't fit my style, but other people out there.
No. I'm thinking intentionally, like pretend they're not actually Zoom bombing, right? You've hired them to come in and go in. But I think adding performance and play and surprise and interactivity are all really interesting elements to bring in. I'm doing an event tomorrow. I don't know actually how many people we have in it. I think we have 400 in the event that I'm leading part of. And then an event that I'm in a another event later in the day with probably 3,000 people. And then I'm leading an event the following day for 60, and then in the evening for 35, right? So
Wow.
all of these different events are there. I like lead and speak at conferences like you perform, I speak. But they're all moves where business people are trying to engage their partners, their distributors, their employees, their customers, that kind of thing in some way to get people aligned to help them get through the crisis. And it feels like the more creative that you can be with that, the better, which just seems like a great thing for you.
Yeah, for me, I was approaching a lot of agents in my early in my career, and I've been hired to do events in Shanghai, Germany, Las Vegas, 4 times in Japan. But these are very select clients. Now, when I'm approaching them, I just say, hey, I'm doing events virtually, and the reception is so great. Before, it was like 3 to 5% of my work outside of California. Now it's over 50% of my work is out of California now. So when this stops, I think people are going to get so used to it that I'm going to keep going with these virtual events, and I'm going to have a lot more traction working with this. Although it gets a lot more competitive on a global scale, you're going to have a lot more opportunities. When I set up, right here is the show backdrop. I have this backdrop behind me. I'm able to do shows, and I'm able to do shows back to back to back. Versus when I used to do those were only like library shows or something where they would send me in one county, and it would be, you drive half an hour minimum to the next event. Now it's so easy. I can pull out Major Illusions just behind me.
It is really great, right?
Yeah.
I have events coming up in the next 2 weeks in Kuwait and Bahrain, in Europe, in Asia, across the U.S. These are all online, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere, but there's something really great about actually visiting places, but then there's something also great about having a commute time of 0. Right? You just turn on the thing, reboot your computer or whatever you need to do to get ready for the next one. And there can be difficulties. We tried to record this show a few days ago, and the internets were all crapped out, and we had to reschedule until today, right?
Yeah.
So these things can happen where you can get messed up. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, have you had things go wrong on any of your on your performances or gigs? What kinds of troubles have you encountered, or what have you learned?
Yeah. One of the things I had was I got Zoom bombed.
Yeah.
So it was funny because I told this reporter I'd do a show just for them. They posted it on their Facebook link, and I guess a lot of people jumped on. So it was kind of it was actually how they shared it. And I'm glad it wasn't a paid show because it was just for a reporter. And I learned from that. So if I have an important VIP client, for most of my shows, I'm creating separate Zoom links, especially if it's a corporate event. I don't want people trying to jump back on, because what you can do is if they see that the Zoom meeting is a reoccurring event, someone may try to jump back on that same reoccurring event again. So do, as a best practice, create a new meeting. Otherwise, also lock your screen share and lock the chats, depending on how big the audience is. The tip off for us was I asked everyone to unmute themselves and also show their face, and the guy was saying, "Oh, I can't show my face." Mm-hmm. So that was a tip off. Then he tried sharing his screen and doing all this stuff. But I'm glad it happened early on, because I have a reputation to uphold, and now that I've dealt with that before, it's never going to happen again, because we have all these precautions in place. When the host comes in, I ask them, do you recognize everyone? So you have to take a lot of precautions, or make sure, because mine is an interactive show. It's not like a webinar. I love when people are talking. I love when people are laughing. You want to hear that over-the-top reaction that you'll get from a live magic show. If you don't get that, for some reason, I feel that the event planner doesn't feel that they've gotten their money's worth, because that's what would happen in a magic show, these over-the-top crazy reactions.
Now, I was in an Oakland comedy show the other night, also via Zoom, and they had opened up mics for people so there could be reaction. It was it wasn't like an open mic kind of thing, but it was it was a little rough around the edges, but still it was kind of fun to be on with people, and they had comedians from the Bay Area and from Southern California on performing, and then they had people reacting in their home and laughing or not laughing. And I imagine it would be really hard to perform without getting any feedback, without hearing how people respond.
So this is what we've worked out, and this is where we're at. In a couple of routines, we'll do like the gallery view.
Yeah.
It's okay to see that, but certain routines like what you saw there, your view never changed because you could see that hasn't moved the entire time. So you have to also, we'll unmute people as the show goes along.
Yeah.
If they don't have ambient noise, and we'll selectively choose people who are having the best laugh. You'll see their hands go up and actively doing that. So we'll unmute all of them to capture that, and that just resonates with people.
Do you have somebody else doing that part of it?
Yes, my wife is doing that off to the side.
The assistant. Now, does she wear a sequined costume?
She used to do the costume change where the costume would change from one to another. We're thinking of bringing that back in. It's just there's a lot of work involved and it's been kind of overdone right now.
Uh-huh.
So I think that there's a lot of cycles in business where you see this gets popular, but we're focusing on our strengths. We're looking at where the trends are going, and the trends for magic, I believe, are moving toward mentalism, the mind reading and prediction, because intelligent audiences still don't know how that works versus costume changes. Some people may have a guess, and once they think that they have a guess, even though it's incorrect, they think that they solved it. And most guesses are incorrect in terms of they've gotten like 50% of it. But a layperson, when they figure out a magic trick, if they figure out 50% of it, they're like, oh, I figured it out. You have to fool them 100% versus a magician, which was actually mentioned on Penn and Teller. If you fool a guy, if they don't know one part of it, they're completely like, oh, how did you do that? Because they think that they know everything. So that one part that hangs them up is the part that they don't know, and they pride themselves on knowing everything. For a layperson, that's complete opposite, and that's why we have to be 100% on everything for us.
Okay, but the costume changes, given that people are doing Zoom meetings in their pajama pants, is pretty funny, right? I wear pants every day, but I have mostly worn house slippers. I hardly ever put on real shoes. And when it gets warm enough, I don't wear any shoes and I walk around, right? Which I never would do. And in any other environment, of course, I might wear something that looks kind of business-like up top, but then I might be wearing shorts underneath.
Yeah.
As I work around the house. So I think there are funny things with how we're dressing now that are pretty topical with people. And of course, in the early days, we had people walking in the first couple of weeks, we had people getting caught on Zoom, going to the bathroom or things like that.
Yeah, you got to really know your mute. Like for me, I'm looking at my microphones when I was doing live shows, always checking out where things are muted. Always telling my kids, hey, don't run by, don't, put your clothes on, like no tank tops. And for me, I'm dressed like this, and I'm dressed professionally all the time. So I'm jumping in and out of my outfit. I have a tank top under here in between all my podcasts. It's so hot where I'm at in Fremont. I'm doing a lot of costume changes as well, but it's definitely a lot better than having to set up an entire show again and again.
Right. You're set up once in one place. It's funny, in the last week before the quarantine set in here, I had a speaker. I was at an event, and he went to the bathroom with his mic on, and he was talking to himself, and he flushed the toilet.
I think that would be a great comedy bit.
In the room, we were all hearing the thing, like, oh my God, he was so embarrassed.
I think that would be a great comedy bit that's pre-recorded as a comedian before you go up.
Right.
That would be a great just to engage the audience, but structured in a way that really delivers the comic beats, but adds value in a way that's it can work. That's for sure.
So what else you got for us?
Yeah,
more magic to blow our minds.
Okay, I have this dollar bill here, and I'm going to show you something with the dollar bill.
$2.
Yeah, a $2 bill. Yes. Grace, if I can have you reach your hand behind there and let everyone see, just above the camera, right there. Okay, let's hold that right there. The back of the bill faces you, the front of the bill faces me. In any situation, you want to get people to see the other side, but quite frequently, they're holding on to their opinions and beliefs a little too tightly to see anything else. That's when you need a magician, a speaker, to transform your perspective and get you to see something in a different light. Now, the front of the bill faces you, the back of the bill faces me. And now you have a new perspective without letting go of your current one.
Yeah. So the bill flips around in the video. There's a little window cut in it. You totally held in place. That's brilliant.
Yeah. And that is very interesting and intriguing to people. And I don't mind discussing how it works, because I feel like with a magician, you supposedly can't teach. So I'm currently doing something called a med talk. It's called Magic, Entertainment, and Deception, where I'll do a trick 3 or 4 different times, but do a different method in each one of the times. And it'll fool you. After you see the first one, you'll get fooled. And the second time you see it, you'll still get fooled by the same trick. Yeah. The same effect. Then I'll go into another effect where the method's different. So there's different ways you can do the method, or you can do the effect being different. And on another time, maybe I'll show that to you, or kind of go into the creative process of how you can skin a cat different ways.
You're teasing us now.
Yes, that is that is part of it. Yeah, when you're selling or when you're doing anything, and I don't know if we'll have that much time today, but we can discuss some of that if you'd like in the future.
We'll talk about the other kinds of things that you do where you tie it into the content in some way, or give us a sense of that.
So I see industry things where everyone is doing the same thing, and I want to do it differently. I used to be a follower and copying a lot of things, but I said, what am I going to have to do to be a market leader? And that requires doing everything differently. For example, when I'm doing a trade show, I'm drawing people into the booth. Magicians traditionally will wave money, because there's one guy who waves money, and he'll just wave money, say that we're going to give away money in 40 minutes if you stay for the end of my presentation, and they keep them there. To me, that's inauthentic, because that is a brand promise that you can't keep, because you're telling someone a lie. These magicians aren't giving away money. If I am going to get someone in there, I insist that the client give away $100 every hour. I've done that before. But most magicians will lie to you, say we're going to give out money. What I'll do is I'll just change the ones into hundreds or something. I'll do this effect right here. See, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. I'll roll up my sleeves, then I'll blow, and I'll change them into 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 real $100.
Awesome.
So I usually do hundreds with that.
Yeah.
But for
2s and 20s are pretty fun.
For this specific client that I prepared this for, I wanted to do something a little bit different to integrate their message. So when I'm going into trade shows, I might walk around the trade show floor with one of the salespeople, and I'll target people, and I'll find out what's on their badge, and I'll read what's on their badge. And that will start conversations, because not everyone's going to go to your booth. Unless you have this big booth, you're probably trying to specifically have a target and a goal. So when I talk to clients, I'll ask, in an ideal situation, if we were to celebrate your victories 5 years down the line, what would it look like, and what would be different than what's currently happening? So I become a team member, and that way, on the subsequent times I'm working with them, I can ask for a lot more, because if they're looking me as a business consultant like yourself, you can actually ask for equity in a company. And I've actually asked for equity in certain companies, in smaller companies, when they could not afford my trade show fees. That is something that I actually saw a gentleman who painted the Facebook walls. He actually did a mural, and I think he got $200 million worth of stock. And you can look this up. This is But once I started asking for a lot higher rates at my trade show where these startups were telling me, I've only got $100, I'm like, if you've got $100 only, I'm not the right person. I'm going to refer you to someone else.
Yeah.
But on a trade show, when they're spending $20,000 on their floor print for maybe one day, or even $50,000 for a very, very small 10 by 10 booth at Moscone Center,
yeah,
then that puts in perspective, if you can create a specific result and guarantee that specific result, then you're compensated on a results basis.
I can see that. I also, in some cases, what they have to trade around is the lottery ticket that is their stock that may or may not be, and they'll put their heart and sweat into it so that it may be different for them. But for you as an outsider, something like that is like, well, here's $1 million maybe.
Well, here's the thing. I work for some companies 4 or 5 times, and once you develop that relationship with them, they're more willing to say yes to a big ask like that, because first of all, lawyers have to come into the equation.
Yeah.
They're going to have to issue these stocks, and it's not just one thing, but if they're already issuing it for something else, or they have a process in place and it's not hard,
they add you to the pool.
They'll add you to the pool.
Yeah. It's interesting how things are changing. Well, I think, even now, as we're beginning to see opening back up, right? We're beginning to see loosening in where we are in the San Francisco Bay Area. They're beginning to allow pickup retail. So curbside, you can call a store and say, hey, I need whatever it is that they sell. And then you can pull up to it and they can go out and deliver it to you. And somebody asked me this morning, what's the value of that? I'm like, well, you can get something faster than a delivery from Amazon because you can just drive over and get it right now, assuming they're open and that they've done that. On the other hand, we will see a return to meetings at some point, but they're going to feel very different, right? I'm beginning to plan some in-person meetings with clients and get booked for things, but we're beginning to think about, well, how are we going to do that meeting if we don't want to all be cooped up in a small meeting room for a while? So we're beginning to look for outdoor venues, right? And I think that you've moved your act online, it'll go to some hybrid form at some point and have a mix of these kinds of things, right? It's going to continue to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like what happened after 9/11, where we all had to take off our shoes, and there's a new normal with having a spritzer on there for hand sanitizer, even though I think it's going to be, it might be an overshoot, but people are going to get so accustomed to that will be the new normal.
We went to a construction-related store the other day. They made an appointment. So they only had one customer at a time, and they took appointments. They were very booked up. You had to wear a mask. You had to get your temperature checked, and they put sanitizer in your hands before you walked in and around because of things you might touch. And everybody stayed, a 6-foot distance apart. So it was inside, and it was deemed essential because it's a construction-related thing. And they were handling it in a very evolved way, like systematic kind of thing. And you felt pretty good about it. Like, okay, let's say somebody was infected in there and didn't know it. We wouldn't be likely exposing ourselves. Our distance was probably sufficient to keep everybody healthy, even if there was an exposed person going around.
Yeah,
probably wouldn't spread. I think that evolution is interesting. Has that shown up in the comedy of the delivery behind your act as well?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of comedy, to be honest with you. I have one-liners. I decided that long ago that comedy was something that I tried for 10 years, but for more sophisticated audiences, I think comedy puts you in a different light. It becomes, you're that comedy magician, and it becomes cheesy, or it becomes hacky. If you don't have that right delivery, there's certain people who can pull it off, but I've just decided that unless it's off the cuff and I feel that's going to be really funny, I'm not going to say those same lines.
Right.
Because business people are hiring me. I'd rather talk about business or give them something that a taste of something they've never seen before.
Well, before we run out of time, why don't you close us out with a few fun things, and then I'll remind folks about where to go to see more of your act and to book you for their event.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me show you a quick thing. Back in the 80s and 90s, there was a magician by the name of David Copperfield, and he would do stunts. but I'll show that effect to you later.
Yeah.
You, Bill, will wait for that to come back over toward me, and are a true star. What makes you a true star is who you are on the inside. What you do day in and day out molds you into a true superstar.
Fun.
So I use that as an opening for groups to mention how they are the superstars behind the company. And I say it as a thank you when they're approached. This is done live typically, but I've kind of evolved this into one of my openers.
Super fun. All right. Should we end it there?
Absolutely. Thank you again, Bill, for having me on your podcast.
Thanks so much for coming on with us and sharing a little bit. You can find him, Dan, at Dan Chan Magic, just like it sounds. Of course, we'll put it in the show notes and in the video description there, danchanmagic.com. And you can see all of that, get a taste of his work there, and talk to him about your event. Thanks again so much, Dan, for joining us on the show. We'll talk to everyone again next time.
Thank you, Bill.